It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the August 17th school board meeting of the Mapleton School District to order. Welcome to all of our guests. Nice to see so many faces out there. Welcome to our new superintendent, Sue Wilson, with the official looking placard there.
Yeah, classy.
Our mission is to provide a safe learning environment where students are encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential. We base all our decisions on what is best for students. I could stand and do a flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have the board members had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any edits or changes, additions that need to be made?
I don't think it was on the original one. I think I emailed you 8.6 surplus property. It's on
this, yep. See that?
Yeah, you did email it to us.
Yep. Any other changes? Then I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved. Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. The agenda is approved. Item 4, public comment. I think we have some public comment that has submitted and wants to speak today.
So I've got Carolee on the
Okay. Okay, Carolee and Neil, do you want to?
May I, do you want me to stand up or shall I?
Wherever you're most comfortable.
Oh, I will try to sit up very straight.
Okay.
I have an autoimmune condition, therefore the mask, but you won't hear me if I don't take it off. So, I gave you copies of everything I'm going to say. Neil Hadley and I'm Carolee Howes. We're representing SRAC, the Cycle Regional Aquatic Center Board. I've been on the board since 2008 when it began. Neil has joined our board more recently. And this is a statement that the board approved. So here we go. SRIC wants to continue to work with the Mapleton School District School Board to repair and manage a community center and pool, to provide community recreational activities, and to make sure that the children growing up in the Sayashwa River Valley learn to swim. We think there are at least 2 problems that have to be resolved before we can work to meet this goal. First of all, we must improve the working relationship between you all, the Mapleton School District, and SREC. We would propose a permanent subcommittee made up of members of the school board, the superintendent, and members of our board to jointly arrive at decisions about funding and implementing building and pool reservations, and once renovations are complete, the functioning of the building and the pool. And the second problem is that we must address the very large cost of the building repairs and renovations. The pool building itself cannot be occupied due to lack of compliance with codes and the need for extensive renovations. The pool itself can be brought up to code and fixed. The pool can be brought up to code and fixed with less money than it would take to fix the building. The USDA funds are only for building repair and renovation. The state of Oregon funds can be used to help renovate the building, but were given to fix the pool. So we've got 2 pots of money with somewhat not so absolutely clear, although I have the pieces of paper with me that say about how we're to use them. We are aware that capital funds are extremely difficult to raise anytime, anywhere, particularly difficult to raise in a low-income area. We think we can only succeed if the larger community increases its volunteer and financial support and if the Mapleton School District is actively involved in fundraising. And then we've been asked to talk about our funding plan. We actually have many spread Excel sheets with when various grants are due and so forth and so on. We've been working with Susie Razor in Florence to develop that. It needs to be brought up to date because it was pre-COVID. But what's the theory of the plan is locally to document community involvement and the desire for a pool community center. We planned and have conducted local fundraising events, including bingo, pie auctions, and raffles. These have been far more sporadic than we had planned. First, due to not wanting to compete with the bond activities, and second, due to COVID. We were quite strict about not wanting to have public gatherings during COVID. The current plan is to have 2 local fundraising events in the fall of 2022, and we have a online bottle drive, which brings in money. Not enough to make fix the building, but it does very systematic money. State and national fundraising, capital fundraising has included the state of Oregon money, the USDA grant, 2 grant applications to major foundations, an application to Peace Health and to the tribes. We didn't get the major foundation grants, in part due to them coming in just about the same time COVID started, and they all switched to COVID as priority. And also because we haven't raised sufficient local funds. We were successful in our other applications, but the amount of money needed far exceeds the amount of money we can raise. We will do 2 local capital fundraising events during this coming school year, the most postponed over and over again, golf tournament, and we're going to do a home-based appeal to large individual donors who've been working to identify. We will apply to large foundations again once we have met the 50% local contributions, which is where all the Oregon Community Fund and funds like that might have Murdoch Fund, might have funds for pool asking at this point. So I'm happy to answer questions, or I know it comes up before the discussion on the agenda.
Questions for Caroline?
I mean, like a minor technical question, that 50% required local contribution, can that be other grants? Like, is that just contributions?
No, it can be other grants.
It can, okay.
It can be state grants or
Cool.
federal grants like the USDA. But
Great.
These are the private foundations, the independent foundations, not the federal, not the public money
Yep,
foundations.
I just want to know if they had to be like cash raised from individual donors here, or
No.
whether it can be.
And
okay.
everything counts, even our bottles.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
and the other thing that counts towards that, if we have in kind, so if someone wanted to give us an enormous pile of wood and put a dollar value on it, that can also count.
My question, I guess, the idea of the joint subcommittee, is the thinking, I mean, I like the idea of, SRAC working with the school district and the school board and the superintendent, but jointly arrive at decisions. I think they would have to be jointly arrive at a recommendation for a decision,
Yeah,
wouldn't they?
Technically, recommendations to both boards.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Just wanted to make
No,
sure we
I'm
weren't
not-
creating a
I'm not
decision-making
doing the
body.
subcommittee all the
Okay,
time.
okay, that makes sense. I mean, I have questions still about the timing and the USDA thing, but I
Oh,
think you're gonna talk about that when we get to that.
Yeah, we
Okay,
got that.
okay, good.
Got it.
Other questions, clarifications?
I'd like to hear from Sue.
Okay, well, should we,
do that one on the agenda item?
yeah, yeah.
In
yeah.
the reports section, it just says middle school, high school, but I included it in the
Okay,
report that I'll
cool.
give there, so it's coming shortly.
Okay, yeah, you're the next item on the agenda. Okay. Well, if that was the only public comments submitted, then we can, okay. We'll move on to item 5, district reports, the middle school, high school, and facilities, I understand. And is Brenda coming? Or,
So she needed to take somebody to a doctor's appointment, and
Okay.
my guess is it ran over. I know her
Gotcha.
plan was to be back.
okay,
I have not peeked.
Okay.
But I will share a little bit of her part. Yeah, she's still
Okay.
on appointment.
okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna sneak in a thank you for coming, everybody. I'll tell you, it's not very often that there are people at board meetings in our county, and it makes me really happy to have people here, so I appreciate you all. In terms of updates, hopefully some of you can see that from there. So this is kind of a laundry list of things that have been going on. Obviously it's been a while since the last meeting. So I'll start with the boring. Division 22, there was an instructional minutes that we didn't meet like 2 years ago, it looks like. I just want to let you know that's all complete. We're meeting instructional minutes, and the later item about a change to the calendar for this year would also need instructional minutes. Just an update that every school in Oregon needs to submit a COVID management plan due on the 26th. That'll be posted online. Has the same 11 risk mitigation factors that we'll talk about mitigating risk. I encourage everybody to join, if you are a Facebooker, I should say, to follow our pages, Mapleton Schools, and then there's a Mapleton Athletics page. And we're committed to putting regular communication on there, on the Mapleton Schools page. And thank you to the community who's been taking those and sharing out in other forums and spaces. And thank you to community who's invited us to events to take pictures and share, because it's been kind of a quiet summer. Just to update that high school football and high school volleyball are underway. We have 10 players for high school football, for 6-person football. And then high school volleyball, we currently have 6 players out with a 7th out of town for another week or two. And so we'll have 7 players. And then middle school seasons will start near the start of school. I will throw out we're still like very much recruiting for a middle school volleyball coach. So if you know people, we have a couple names sent to us that we are calling and nagging. But if you know somebody, we would love them. I did want to share just some donations that we've been receiving specifically for art supplies. So we have a new K-12 art teacher who comes connected to communities in Arizona. And well, I mean, one of these is anonymous, but it might be from Arizona. So I kind of gave that away. But a $2,000 anonymous donor, and then $500 from the Kamen family in Arizona. Kate Huber is another new teacher. She's our high school English language arts teacher, and she applied to be part of the Journalism Learning Institute program through the U of O, and is engaging in their teacher fellowship, and it's specifically oriented to engaging rural students in journalism endeavors. So excited for that, and I'll get to that in a second.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's in September or October, but we usually get to meet our new staff. They come to a board meeting. so
September sounds awesome for
that'd
that.
be cool.
And I'll say both Kate and Tucker are working together to build out middle school, high school classroom libraries. So it's been noted multiple times since I've started that we're one of the few high schools in the county without a formal library, and so we're working first to build out those classroom libraries, and then we actually have a meeting with Honor Pazdral, who's the ESD librarian support, I want to say tomorrow, to talk about kind of next steps related to building those libraries out and making sure that instructional technology and research skills are embedded in the work that and classroom experiences that we provide our students. And then connected, you'll see journalism as a elective course for our high schoolers. So schedule-wise, all of our students will be enrolled in a success course that'll include grade level success classes, kind of cross grade level house structures, and opportunities for clubs embedded in the school day. And then elective periods, we're actually offering 2 electives per period, so they'll meet 2 days a week. And some of that is because so many students need a quarter credit based on schedule changes last year, that this is a chance to earn quarter credits to kind of match those. So journalism, weights, ethnic studies, and engineering are all offered at the same block, and students can pick from 2 of those. And then yearbook, computer science, explorations, and ultimate frisbee are offered in a second block there. Also with some supports for internship, starting and moving into the future, kind of embedded in that schedule as well. So.
Was anybody else reading that as engineering in yearbook as a class?
It's not. I was trying to break up the, those are not together.
That would be really
Yeah.
This could be a fun one. We'll make sure engineering is very highly acknowledged in the yearbook though. Brenda was going to share, just to make sure everybody knows, registration for all students preschool through 12th grade is on August 23rd, 24th, and 25th from 8 to 4 p.m. It'll be in the front part of the middle school, high school here. And bring your kiddos, bring your families, all the good stuff. We are underway with our elementary instructional materials adoption for English language arts. Materials have arrived. Elementary teachers have extra paid professional learning time next week, both for kind of unwrapping and stocking that those materials, but also engaging in some basic kind of 101. Here's what's included, and then joining with Situsla elementary teachers in a deeper dive into those materials. So that'll take place next week as well. And then finally, just letting everybody know, we applied for Preschool Promise. The application was submitted. Originally, it said we'd hear back on August 26th. They extended the date for application, so I don't know if that means that date's also going to move. I'm hoping no. And everybody, cross fingers that funding comes. We're going to offer preschool either way, but we're actually extending the school day to meet those requirements. For funding, and from everything I hear, we have a good shot at this money, and so let's make sure we get it. So, couple things connected to facilities, and then I'll get into some visioning and then the pool specifically. I just want to give huge kudos to our custodial staff who works tirelessly over the summer. My first couple weeks were doing this building, and it was so fun to watch how quick things would change and move. They've been up at the elementary since the end of summer school, preparing that space. We hosted and they worked around summer school being offered this summer. And then we hosted the alumni all years reunion, I think that's what that's called, I think last weekend. Or the weekend before last, I should say. And the number of comments from alumni, both about just how beautiful the gym looked, but many walked the space and had not seen the campus and buildings since the bond, and the number of comments just about how beautiful the space was and how well it was done. Like that was the main topic of conversation that I had with alumni. So. Good job to everybody involved in that. A little less exciting, we did lead testing is a part of annual processes. Those results, there are some water sources across the campus that came back over the allowable level. So we've shared those out. Those faucets and sinks, all the things that have lead in the water, are turned off currently. Our next steps are flushing that system and then doing a second round of testing to figure out if it's the like faucet device or the actual water, right, the pipes and stuff, and then from there we'll take next steps on that. So we're kind of in the process. Jared, did I capture all that?
So that's a yearly process.
I actually might have made that up.
Every 6 years.
Every 6
Oh,
years, so.
Okay, so 6 years ago, we got dinged for sure, we had to replace, and things just took a while to show up again, or degradation of faucets, or,
Yeah. Or ones that might not have been tested, yeah, so.
you mean it's like you pick, they,
You're
Pick which
supposed to
ones
do
to-
all of them,
yeah,
assuming that you know where they all are.
oh, gotcha, okay.
So are these, are the ones that were discovered in places where like our kids are accessing this water, or?
So, the 3 of them were at the middle school.
Which no
The
students.
middle school
Yeah,
building there,
yeah,
okay.
And no students access water there,
Yeah.
and we don't drink it. Anyone who uses the building doesn't drink it either.
Okay,
Cause it wasn't part of the improvements or anything.
I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, 2 of them are in rooms there, and Randy just unhooked them. There's
Okay.
no point in having them. One was the main restroom's faucet, and we're, have a guy coming starting tomorrow to replace that whole
Okay.
thing. 3 of them, 2 of them were here at the high school, which is all new stuff. We think that it was just from sitting, not being used, so we're just gonna retest them. And they weren't very, they were just over the limit. And then 2 were at the elementary school. One of them's once again, well, it wasn't over the limit, but it's close, so we're gonna retest it. And then one was the sink in Crystal's office, which we're just taking it out. And then the concession stand up on the field, the sink in it, we're just, Randy's not sure that it's even legal to use it. So we're gonna retest it, it doesn't get used too much, so retest it, and then
Drinking water at all, really, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2 of the drinking fountains, the one on the track and one of them by the football field, they were both pretty close, but we're just gonna retest them also. And he's going to ask the guy that's coming to replace the middle school one what it would take, because Randy said those ones up there, those drinking fountains don't work very well and
They
stuff, so gonna see what it'd take to replace them, just to get an idea, or just shut them off. So those are all the ones that were close or over, so we'll retest most of them, a little bit of activity on them.
So it's required by law to test every 6 years?
The state, is it law? That's the schedule that the state has put in place, yeah.
I mean, it might be advantageous to do it more often. If this is coming up, you know, we want to protect those people getting that water from them.
Yeah, and especially since some of those, like, well, we don't use them very often, that means it could build up so that when somebody does use them, it's more. But I know from working in a lab that tests water like this, like it could look totally different next time we test. The limits are, it's like such a close,
Yeah.
like the limits are small, I guess, or a small number, you know, small amounts, which is good. So it'd be interesting to see, it'd almost be nice to test like 3 samples at once from each one when we do it and see if there's variation in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and how you test them, so, like Randy, you've got a bottle about that big,
Yeah.
and you just go first thing, and this was done a week or, well, maybe right after students were here, a couple of days after students were here. So you just go first thing in the morning, don't let the water run at all, you just put it in the bottle. And like I said, some of them just aren't in places that get used, and so we're going, for the retests, we're going to flush them a little bit, run them for a minute or 2, and then wait 4 days, so probably flush them Thursday, and then wait and test them Monday and stuff, so that'd be your typical potential
Yeah.
And just teach the kids to let it run for a few seconds before you get any water out of it.
Well, yeah, but it seems like even if we have it, if they test high even under the same circumstances again, even sitting for a while, I mean, it just seems like they will sit sometimes and then kids won't remember to run it and they'll drink it, you know, so we should, I guess, be very conservative and, you know, keeping them on, is my thought about it.
When is the retest scheduled for?
We will, I'm checking to see if we need to have the place gather up the bottles. When we got them the first time, had to wait for them to gather them up, or if they have not too many this time. I mean, we tested 90-something before, and so I had to wait for them to gather them up. So, so Sue might be able to pick them up. We might test them this week and stuff, so, or the next week.
Something to have on the agenda next month again too. It sounds like I definitely want to hear how the retest goes. And I did see a hand. We don't normally take public comment during the business part of the board meeting, but if you have a quick comment from the resident plumber.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, so up until about 10 or 15 years ago, almost every faucet, that was brass had lead in it. And then they went to lead free. And so probably most of the faucets up until the remodel in this school are leaded brass. So, and actually most of the copper solder joints in this building are probably done with 50-50 solder. So I would say that getting rid of the leaded brass faucets are probably gonna help. That's probably, I would almost guarantee that every one they tested was probably leaded brass.
Yeah, they'll, figure that's the easiest for ones that we end up wanting to replace. Yeah, just replacing the fixture and probably the shut-off valves between.
I mean, I've never seen a lead pipe in Oregon,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
There's not, I mean, it's not old enough, so I would just say it's probably the fixture itself.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think it's probably too crazy to worry about.
Thank you.
That makes sense, yep.
In terms of, I put this as kind of vision and things that we're working on currently. So the industrial arts, a lot of people call it the shop building, is where we'll host our art program. The vision for that is really working towards a community makerspace. We're building out currently a phased plan in partnership with Connected Lake County, who came out and sees the same potential. They offer a program, summer month-long program called Invention Lab that's had like amazing results, and they are committed to helping us have that up and running by next summer. So stay tuned. Really, the main thing that people are saying that it needs is kind of a paint party. Well, it doesn't need a party. It needs paint. I'm bringing the party. But really, it's, you know, a lot of shops are designed like nobody cares what they look like, and this is really about making it in a way that's inviting and creating that space where every student and community members eventually feel welcome and part of that space. We have a lot of equipment for woods and welding, which is really exciting. We're also looking at getting equipment, 3D printer, screen printing, CNC laser engraver, and I'm forgetting, sewing machines, so that there's access to a lot of different types of making. So,
You want to explain what a makerspace is?
come in and make. So really, like, what are other names? So not just shop, where it's like an industrial, like woods and welding, but really rooted in design and the arts as well. And then our hope over time is starting with kind of Friday school student programming, working with community partners to offer some programming using the equipment in that space and teaching students to use and access those. And then over time, my goal and plan is to open that up to some community hours. I met a local at the coffee shop who wants to start a small business for upcycling and needs to buy a sewing machine. And I was like, guess what? You could do that and start in a makerspace get your ideas going, make a little bit of money off of the stuff you do, and then invest in your own sewing machine rather than needing the startup costs beforehand. So, second, farm to table concepts are coming up in every single planning and partnership conversation I've been a part of. There are some of you in here that I have learned are like master gardeners, and I didn't know that about you until we started talking about these things. So in our coming year schedule, we've gone all in for our middle school to really center a farm to table program as a student learning experience, and they'll engage in field trips, guest speakers, and put forward the plans and those types of things to build some sort of farm to table program that is scalable and sustainable is really the thing. So we have a nice small garden out here to start with, and the goal is to expand that over time and really make the doing of that process part of the curricular experience. And then all of those kind of tie into this concept of, well, immediate connections to teaching and learning, really project-based and community connected at the root of what we're aiming for. And then there's a grant currently out for a full-service community school grant at the federal level. It is due September 12th, and so it's grant writing time. So those are some things in terms of the facilities, and something I'll say to this because it'll lead into the next couple slides about the pool and what Carolee shared. These are things I think are immediately actionable because they don't require a lot of capital investment early on. You can move to the operational pieces, and I think there are ways to, if successful, we will be engaging more and more community in our spaces to hopefully get more engagement to then look at larger scale projects like the middle school building and the pool building.
So with the grant, is the ESD helping us write that grant?
So the ESD it's Connected Lane County that we're working to partner with on it. I do have some side supports through the ESD that support grants in general. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be using those for this, so we'll bleep that out of the so all right, so the pool building, my main thing in the first month was really like just to figure out what's going on with the pool, and there were some questions coming up or different information in different settings that I wanted to kind of help get us all on the same page about. So a lot of this is known, a lot of this Carolee and Neil just shared for us, but a few notes that it's really a heavy investment needed in terms of capital maintenance and repairs, capital investment. In the $6 to $10 million range, there are different levels of that, but I don't see really a proposal under $6 million. And of that, it looks like about 1.1 million is for the actual pool. So it's really the building needs work in order to have anything in that space. And the pool is about just over $1 million of that cost. There's been a lot of conversation in the community about grants that are available to support community centers, community pools, all those things. Almost all of the ones named are operational, so they require a building and functional pool in order to have programming in that space. And so it's just something I want to draw attention to, that if we can be nuanced in our conversations about the pool, are we talking capital improvements or are we talking about operational? I think that's an important thing to pull apart. And there's not a lot of grants out there that support the capital, and the ones that are out there have a lot of strings attached, which is what we're running into with the current ones that we have, which I'll talk to in a minute. I just want to acknowledge high community support and many fundraising efforts. The community meeting that was held about it, I want to say 25 to 30 people were there, and just a great conversation. People invested in moving it forward. I do have to share, there are some people who have voiced concerns about the feasibility and sustainability, both on the record and off the record. And I think we all would agree with that, but I think it's more the early cost is the bigger question when we're talking about this. And so I just was saying, no matter what the building becomes, pool or anything else, it's going to require capital funds to do something with that building because it needs to be made safe and accessible. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every line of this, but I wanted to make sure everybody can see it. This is in terms of the USDA grant specifically. So the project proposal in that USDA grant is on the left there, and you'll see the total cost of that plan is just over 1.2 million. And you can see what's included in that cost. I believe that roof, the roof came up in the community meeting. I just want to draw attention. I believe that cost $67,000 is like to make sure the roof's not leaking and to address, kind of upgrading it. It does need a new roof at some point. It's, I think it's at about 25 years, and nothing I read said you definitely don't want to go past 40 years, which would be like 2036. So if you had questions about the roof, there's a little bit of information for you.
What's the demolition?
I have no clue.
Also, just these are like $2019, maybe, right?
Yeah, there was a so 2019, I think that's an important thing to name, obviously, like if you've bought milk lately, inflation's a thing, so that 1.2 million may not do all of that still, but there was a markup in, I want to say it was included in this, but I might be lying, for inflation as well. Definitely in some of the bids and plans that we've gotten since then have included markup costs. Let me ask the board, hold on a second. Demolition, if anybody in the audience has information, can they add to that, or do we want to wait?
I mean, I think maybe it's just this was a lot specifically for the upgrading locker rooms and stuff like that, and you'd have to take out a lot of what's there before putting in new, like for ADA and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that's the cost for doing that part.
For the undoing in order to do.
Yeah.
Is this the USDA budget or additional?
This, sorry, or the.
Is this the USDA budget or additional?
This is the USDA grant. So this was the proposal that was put through that says, hey, we'll fund this scope of the project. It was working off of an older bid, I guess is the word, and there's been a newer bid done since then. So I just wanted people to see what the scope of the project that the USDA approved was. And then on the right is the assumed funding to meet that 1.2+ million. And you'll notice the $303,000 for the USDA grant. That's the part I'm going to speak the most to because it's where the questions resided. The $400,000 was money that ended up being awarded to the SRAC towards the efforts of a pool. Because we're not in formal conversation about the pool right now, I want to steer clear of talking too much about that part because I think we need to reopen a conversation if we want to talk about that money. Feels right. And then it assumed that, okay, even if those two things exist, we need to raise, we being collective we, $530, almost $3,000 in order to do all the things on the left. Okay? I'm going to speak, I'll come back to costs in a second, but some of the information in the community that was different was the deadline to utilize those funds. And we've gotten very clear communication from USDA that they need to see significant progress as soon as possible. And the project needs to be under construction and drawing grant funds before August 3rd, 2023. And when we say drawing grant funds, that's USDA grant funds that are spent at the end, not at the beginning. right? So USDA can only be touched after the rest of that money is being spent.
That's the information that we were given at the last board meeting, or the one before,
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah,
And
And
then we were told, nope, that's
That it
not
may not
right,
be
but
accurate.
it is 2023.
yeah, so we got very clear in writing, and that's been communicated to the STRAC team as well, so it's not a surprise right now. Like, everybody's on the same page about that.
Right, and we don't need to, we don't have to finish spending it by that date. So it's, we have to be in the process of the work and writing the.
And getting
checks.
But you have
towards
to
the
have
end of
finished
the project.
spending the other stuff.
Exactly.
Right, yes,
Exactly.
yes, yeah.
And then a second question that came up at the community meeting was, hey, can volunteer labor be a match versus just cash? And unfortunately, because of the requirements for labor and going to bid, I'm not gonna read the whole thing there, but they utilize the American Institute of Architects, and that contract form is the industry standard. It doesn't allow for volunteer labor, unfortunately. So in-kind labor and materials are not eligible for applicant match. It must be a cash match. So going back to this number here, to do this whole cost, we need to find a way to raise 532,000 plus on top of even the 400,000 that exists or 500 from the
Right.
state.
And just to be clear, that doesn't mean that in-kind labor wouldn't be a good thing anyway, but it just wouldn't be able to count as match to this
Towards
grant
this
source.
grant,
So it's,
yes.
yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. So my question is so what's possible? And so a few things I have, Mary Ellen told me she likes visuals, so I have a visual on the next slide. This is what, so you saw the original proposal for 1.2 million. USDA funds up to 55% of projects. So we could scale down the scope of the project from 1.2 million to 551,000, and still get the full 303,000. And therefore we'd only need to match 248,000 versus the larger number from earlier. You can skip, that would be for us to take advantage of the full 303,000. We could take advantage of part of that. I just made these numbers up to make the math easy, but we could scale down to $100,000 project and use 55,000 of theirs, and we'd need cash up to 45,000. So all changes in scope need to be approved, it's more change in scale than scope. But a couple of things, funded projects must be a functional facility at the time of the project completion. And so they're really specific about what they mean about that, which I think was helpful. So we can't fund the resurfacing of the pool if the building will still be unsustainable, right? So you gotta do something that's leading towards the most useful next step. But we could fund the locker room and bathroom renovations if a portion of the building is safe and can be used after the project is completed. I'll say on the phone call, they talked about even if you scale this all the way down to buying washing machines and lockers for a future one, there's some level that they're gonna allow us to scale all the way back that hey, that thing you bought is usable at some point in some building. So,
And how long into the future are they questioning what we're doing with this building?
They being the USDA,
Yeah.
well, until 2023 spring. I mean, basically, we have to get it approved
Right.
before they say yes, go forth and spend.
But I mean, what you're suggesting is that we could fund the locker room and the bathrooms, or we could get washing machines. That's not a swimming pool. So, I mean, how tied to the pool?
Yeah, so good question. Let me be really clear. The USDA grant is not tied to a pool as the final outcome.
Gotcha.
It is tied to rural development to increase access for the community to locker rooms. I think a lot of the vision is a warming center, a space that could be used for a warming center, showers, those types of things. So the pool, for the USDA, the pool does not need to be the outcome. Some usable space for the safe and accessible
So
to
if you
the
scale
community
back to something
does.
else, it's not like they're gonna be monitoring you for 5 years down the road
To make
because
sure
it
it
didn't
becomes
become this
cool.
other thing, okay.
On the other hand, I did put one note about that $500,000 state grant, just so that it was in the conversation. That money does require that intended outcome of a pool. At the end of spending that $500,000, the pool doesn't need to be usable yet, but I think it needs to be, the intent is that it is headed towards a community pool. So it can be that state grant funding, and I want to make clear that that grant is not the school district's, it is Shrac's, so it's not our money to talk about, but it assumes a pool as the outcome. Restoration efforts toward the completed pool, and not that the pool needs to be entirely usable upon spending, I already said that. This would allow pairing with the USDA grant to complete the locker room and part of the envelope in order to have at least one part of the building usable. This would still require a significant amount of fundraising to meet the scope that I put earlier. And there would need to be trust and commitment and partnership between Shrek and the school district to say, yes, the pool is the intended outcome at the end. There's your pictures. So,
Except they're not quite accurate, since I was looking at it.
We'll see. So this is the full $1.2 million project, with that breakdown, us being the collective we in the room, and USDA spending 55% of those funds.
Except it'd be.
Oh, I got them on the wrong side. You are right.
Right.
Well, it'd be even bigger than.
No, hold on. Say it again.
It'd be even bigger. The blue would be. What,
Percentage-wise,
a
it's
quarter of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the
So,
1.2
yeah.
million. Yeah.
300,000 is 1.2 million, so
Right.
the blue should be a quarter.
no. Okay, so here's what I want to make clear what this is showing, and it may be that the label is the inaccurate. I want to make sure I understand you on this, but 55% of that total. Oh, I get what you're saying. Never mind, you are correct. I'm being dumb. Okay, so this actually requires, we're going above what the USDA could. So that pot is of money. You're right. The red inside of that should be bigger, but they'll spend up to 55%. But we're going well beyond. It's capped at their 303.
And so
This is
it
what
would look
happens when I
much
make it
better
right before the
because,
board meeting. Yeah.
the blue would
It'd
look
only be a
like
quarter.
this in the first one, and then
Yep,
it'd go.
you're right. See, should have shared it earlier. I'll tell you, I'm a math teacher at Harvard. So, this one, the intent of scaling that smaller is to say, hey, if we scaled the project down, this one's actually accurate. This one gets us right to USDA 55% and us 45%. You're right that over here, we're eating up way more of that cost because it's capped at 303. And then this is like scaling all the way down to some little project, still whatever that little project is. That's time, I think I just got it backwards. Good. Oh, see, this is what happens when you make visuals at the last second. Don't look. Okay. And then the last question, really good question that was asked, are there what happens if the USDA grant, if we say we can't and we don't spend any of it or only a portion of it, there are no consequences. It doesn't hurt your chances to apply for a grant in the future. The one thing I want to make sure to share is most of these rural development USDA type grants are in the $50,000 range, and we were able to get a over $300,000 one because it was a year of recovery investment, and they're not anticipating that those will be in the $300,000 range in the future. So if we said, well, let's say no now, and then in 3 years when we're ready to go after one, we can't assume we're going to get 300,000. It'll likely be closer to 50,000. So that's what I got, and I'll fix those slides and pretend that didn't happen.
Can you just leave one?
Oh, yep.
Not, yeah, maybe that one.
I can make that bigger too, a little bit. And I'm happy to give it a slide there.
accurate summary, if we wanted to use all of the possible USDA of 303,000, we would need to be able to come up with 248,000, and we would need to start now, basically, because we need to have a lot
You have to start using
done
on that
by a
in
year
here.
from now.
Yeah.
And have it be, and have the end result be something that's usable. So we'd have to guarantee that the work we did.
Something was done.
Right, because we
Yeah.
could spend that money, but then maybe that didn't structurally repair the part of the building enough to be usable or something like
And
that.
so and to that point, the first step is to get that approved by the USDA. And so, if, to the point of if we wanna maximize their funds, yes, that's how much money we need. And then we need them to say yes to what we think we can buy with, or pay for with 551,000.
I mean, what's the range to just get the building, I mean, there's rot in the building. So like that, we have to deal with the envelope before we start dealing with lockers, don't we?
Well, you could just potentially the envelope, maybe the envelope on that, like the section that is where the locker rooms and stuff are, maybe that's part is, you know, repairable to the point where it would be safe to use without repairing the entire building is what is the idea. Now, we don't know if that's true, like if that's possible or not,
It doesn't seem
but
smart.
no, that's true.
I mean, you got a rotting building, but you gotta take care of your building first, so.
And what I don't know, and it would be to ask USDA, is will you just pay for rod clearance so that we can get closer to doing something for a community? And that doesn't strike me as a yes, based on everything we've talked about in red.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of asked that question and they basically said, no, it has to provide some service to the community after you've spent this money immediately. But, I don't know.
This was really helpful to me to kind of get my head around a little bit more where we're at. Some more questions?
Well, I mean, the question is like, what do we as the community feel like we're gonna be capable to raise, right? So, like, in order to be comfortable going forward with a $1.2 million plan, we have to be confident we can raise $500,000. Whether that's between grants and personal and donations and all of that, like, is that something that's feasible that we can do by spring, you know, so we can start construction and be using those funds by next summer? Or do we need to be thinking about scaling it down now so we can get that approved? And is it more feasible that us as a community can raise $250,000? Or should we be scaling it back? I mean, these options are great, but not, I mean, the real question is, what do we, as a community and as a school board and as the track board and with hopefully a lot of community involvement, which that turnout and that desire seemed to be there from the meeting and you know, what do we feel like we can actually achieve? So, I mean, that's the question. I don't have that answer, but that's the question.
And by what date?
And again, and the
That's-
time
And
limits.
by when, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that even to do this, you know, if we wanted to use all the 303, my understanding is Shrek has, I mean, even that it has maybe 40,000, something like that in there, like accessible now. To me, what this says is the school is gonna have to kick in $200,000 if we wanna use this $303,000. That's what I'm hearing, and to me, that's the question.
Well, or raise it, like, yeah, or raise it in, you know, partnership, but I just think the timing is hard. Grants,
I would think then you face a timing issue.
Yeah,
By the
because-
time you raise it, you can't book anybody
Right.
to get it done.
yeah, and just the permitting and stuff, itself takes so long. Yeah.
Because we're looking at raising it, getting a new scope approved, and then starting.
Right.
And how, you know,
Architectural drawings and, like you said,
permitting,
permits.
right?
and stuff, so.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear.
SNOIC $50,000 for the Sherwood report. We did all the USDA forms, so that was, the person who did the report was pre-approved by USDA. So we actually, some of the planning and some of the little things like this is who you talk to if you want to get the permit to do this. Some of that work is in the Sherwood report. And so, and that, I didn't clear it with USDA, but I believe that the more or less $50,000 that we paid for the report would count against the money that needs to be raised.
It,
So it cuts it down a little bit, and I think the work that went into this, I mean, my personal opinion is that the Sherwood report is so much more detailed and than the sort of almost back of the envelope USDA budget. So I'm not suggesting we move the $6 million, but I am suggesting that we don't forget that we have more information because we have it, and we do have that $50,000.
And I can reach out and ask, hey, does that 50,000-ish for that report, would that bring that 248 down to about 200? So that then we're looking at 200,000 to maximize that use. And I will say I read through that report and the appendices. Assuming we were sticking with this question about like, can we do part of the envelope versus all of it? I think the answer lies inside of that report on what we could scale back to and work with them or somebody else to use that report and say, okay, here's what you could get for that price might be the right next question to say like, inside of this report, all the things already outlined so that we don't have to go pay for another report.
Right.
What could get us something usable and maybe work with USDA to see
And
if
there's a lot
that
about the
price.
roof. The enormous amount about the roof and ways around the roof and making sure the roof is sturdy enough that it doesn't have to be replaced in 5 years. That's my reading of the report.
yep, and I don't think the 50,000 would go towards it, because it's not us spending it and it didn't go through proper procurement for school districts.
Well, that's because the school district was asked if you would sign off, and Jody decided not to, but we went through the USDA procurement, which that's essentially the same.
But I can reach out and
Yeah,
ask.
we can
I mean,
find
it's
it
either
out
gonna be
too,
a
yeah.
yes or a no, we
Yeah.
can't go backwards,
that's
so I'll reach out and just say, here's, we have this report, we think we can use this report to scale back, or we wanna investigate that, and then I can follow back up and share that out.
So my other question is, I'm sorry, were you finished?
No, I am.
Just cut right in
No,
there.
you're good. And I hate to be the agenda person, but there is a discussion item later. We can
That
keep
is true.
talking, but I didn't know
Yes.
if we want to discuss later and move through the action items or keep talking. It's not my spot. I just want to tell people it's on there later. What were you guys?
I mean, I'd rather continue the conversation and then
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Cool.
Yeah, we're in it now, I think it's, well, I guess my other question was, if we scaled it back and the district matching funds didn't have to be quite as high as they are with that $1.2 million plan, and the end goal was agreed to be a pool, do those state funds count as the match?
That's the big question.
Right. And
So that's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
take a partnership, that's gonna take
that commits
going
to
back
the pool.
to action and saying, are we partnering, is the pool the vision moving forward? I think that's all the things that would need to be decided, to
I mean, but
to touch those
information like that, and
500,000.
answers to those types of questions would help in my decision, right? I mean, if there's a way forward, and we have those funds sitting there, and there's a way to do that, because we would, that discussion's been opened and is going to be decided on whether that end goal is to indeed be a pool, which is what I feel the community has expressed that they want, then that would help inform a decision, I think.
I'm gonna just say, SRIC really is listening to the community wanting the pool. The money, the $500,000 was given for a pool, but I I think right now, what's most important is figuring out how to work together to make something move in the direction. I mean, it would have to be,
100%.
if we give up that money, you know, we're gonna be really not very at all close to having a pool, particularly when the building still wouldn't be
Mhm.
okay for that part of the building. And so, really just, that's what we started with. We have to have a better working relationship, and we really do need a committee to sort this all out and all in the really.
Well, just procedurally, we voted to stop the
Yeah.
pool, so we
Right.
would have to re-vote. We would have to, it would have to be an action item that we rescind our decision.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, there's one other thing that kept kind of, when I was reading all this, there's a geo test to say like, does a pool even make sense on those grounds, right? Will it sustain, or will the ground settle and mess up the pool? And I think for good reason that was put off, to say, well, let's raise some money first and get some action going, and I agree with that decision. And there's a whole piece of me that's doing all this work and trying to make sense of it that's like, can we even have a pool in that spot, right? Is that even a sustainable long-term vision? And so I just want to throw in there at some point in that conversation, and whether to use that $500,000 towards a pool and those kind of things. I think at some point we might need an answer about whether a pool makes sense on those grounds, and at what time frame, I don't know, but it's kind of this lingering thing in the back of my
I
head.
wouldn't argue against the geotest, but I will say that we've talked now to probably 10 different groups of people who understand land and pools, and never had anyone say anything other than, this is a fabulous pool, don't let it go. So.
I was on the board.
Mariella, yeah.
Can I see your hand. I have one, can I ask my question first, because it kind of relates to the idea of working together, and I know there was a community meeting a couple weeks ago that I was out of town for. Has SHRAC, in that community meeting, is it about the pool, or is it about a place for the community to get together?
I think the pool has become the symbol. I think that the thing about the pool, as it was before, it was the community center. I mean, coming into this community in 203, that's where I found the community at the pool. There were, I mean, I'm not gonna go through all this reasons for why to have a pool, but I have yet to run into anybody who doesn't quite put those things in some sort of type thing. On the other hand, I don't think there's anyone on the SRAC board that would be against a warming center and a place for unhoused people, and, you know, there's no argument on that. We just have raised money for a pool, and so we do have
Well, and I think
an
some sort of
integrity.
recreation too.
Yeah.
My understanding for that community meeting is that the vision's very much a pool in some timeline. Other things attached to the pool, connected to the pool as a community gathering space, yes, but I don't think any of that conversation was like void of a pool in that building.
And I think any conversation that was around like just a community center of some sort was really tied to being able to acquire funding. That's when those words really came up and were really prominent in the conversation. But the overall spirit of the meeting, and I mean, this is just my take as well, is with the vision of it.
Well, and maybe just because that was brought up again, because I didn't know when or if it would be brought up during the later conversation or now, but I did hear this stuff about like the warming center or unhoused people. But we're a school district with children here, so that was my huge red flag, was how can we have that type of situation on the school grounds? Not that, I mean, maybe that's not where it'll end up going, but that was a huge red flag to me when I thought, oh my gosh, this is a school campus with children.
There are districts that act as warming centers, just do it outside of school hours so that, like,
I just feel like it's an overflow. I don't think those hours are gonna be, I mean, we had a huge discussion, when that question was brought to me, and I just don't think that those hours always mean the same thing to every person. If that's a place for reprieve for them, they're gonna wanna go there whenever. It doesn't, I mean, and then that's because people have to manage that
Yeah.
and watch that, and I don't know, it's just, as a parent, there's a huge red flag to me.
I think, yeah, we could look at how other districts manage that and stuff too, because I think Sayusla actually is a potential, like a warming shelter, maybe? Yeah,
I've seen the sign.
yeah, yeah.
It's somewhere in the, like in between, on the right, if you're looking at the elementary school, on the right side of the elementary school there.
Mhm.
I don't know the other details.
No, me neither, but I mean, so like, yes, like,
There's-
just as using the building for a pool or anything, we really need to nail down all of the things about, yes, it's possible, feasible, or not. And same for that kind of plan, we'd have to do the same thing, like, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna allow one more public comment, because I see hands and I wanna be respectful. Would you state your name first, because
I'm Carol Barrows. My husband retired from teaching here after 30 years. I've been on the school board immediately after my son's accident and to try to get it reopened because the 6 months while I was in the hospital with him, it shut down. I had worked there as a water aerobics teacher and a swimming teacher. The kids from PE rotated through the swimming program. And we saw them go from just swimming, to a fear of the water to swimming full speed. It was just fantastic. It's the first time I'd been employed other than putting my husband through school because we raised 6 children and I was home. So while I was on the board, we spent oodles and oodles of money making sure that this pool was worth repairing. And so we never got anywhere with the building itself because we had to go over all these hurdles. And one of the hurdles, and I'm not sure what the geo means, but one of the hurdles was that we had to have, I believe it was Emerald Pool come out and drill holes all over the pool to make sure there was soil immediately under the surface. Because if the water had come up and cracked the pool and left with its soil, then we were in trouble because we wouldn't have any bank to put that on, or base. They got dirt immediately every single time. Thousands of dollars was put into, that. And Mike McAllister, a civil engineer, went through the entire building, and I've never met anybody more meticulous than him. So we did get the, real confidence from the professionals that this is so worth repairing. And we've missed it so badly all these years. I had to step down because of my son's care. I'm doing full-time now with him. And that's why I was late. I apologize for walking in late. But I still have a real heart for this community and for this community center because that's how it worked when I was there. We got a commitment from the hospital that when it was open, they would send therapy patients our way. We had already been doing therapy. We had the sling that let people down. So we had been doing therapy, but we didn't have a big package commitment at that point in time. But when we were working as a board, a lot of these folks, and like we said, we've been taken over by the young people because of the energy that it takes to do this kind of thing. And so they're keeping us kind of in the loop because we never really resigned. We just had to step down. But yeah, there's like in that report that Carol's got, it's just so evident that, this is a worthy cause for the whole body, the whole community, to get behind. Because Jody said at one point, well, we can't put any money into that because it's not educational. And I'm like, teaching children to swim and physical education is very educational, And so we had a very full, day working those classes through in the swimming and then a swim team and triathlon, which I was involved in. So, yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
Thanks for sharing.
Somebody have a recommendation from the, the board, superintendent, Carolee? I'm not sure where to go from here, to be honest.
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of questions still that we can't answer and without a lot more of, like, asking and talking. I think it makes sense to have, I think for my part, I would recommend changing our vote, or revoting. I don't know about how that comes out, and in terms of continuing to work on investigating the feasibility of a pool, and then have a subcommittee working with SRAC to just, to continue the work it will take to know the next steps, I guess. But I think also along with that, we have to be very, very clear, both SRAC and the school district board, about the other responsibilities that we have and priorities and everything as well, because raising money for this would mean not raising money for something else. And, we haven't discussed all those other things that would mean either. So I would like to continue those discussions. So for me, I guess that would be my just personal feeling, is continuing discussion, making a formal, sort of subcommittee relationship between SRAC and MSD.
Do you want to put a date certain where, or make a motion and we can vote to rescind or not rescind our decision? I don't deny anything you've said, Carol. I have the same heart for the pool, and it still is it's just a dagger that we did what we did. But, we're realists and we know where we live, and now there is a pool in Florence that did take some of our community that way. There wasn't a pool then. So, when we talk about geofeasibility, I'm thinking of how do we support a pool, this little community? Like, how many people are going to be daily using our pool? Yeah, it'd be great if every kid could swim. That was awesome. All 3 of our kids learned how to swim in that pool, and all our birthday parties we had there, and it was great. That's not gonna, in my opinion, it's not gonna make it work. I'm gonna have to be convinced. And I would be willing to open it back up and to vote to keep going, and people raise money, and if somebody on this board wants to sit on a joint committee, I would support that, but I'm reluctant to be too excited about what's going to happen. This conversation's been going on for, 15 years, I think, and we just have to, we have a building we have to resurrect. We got to do something with it. I don't know what we're going to do with it. I guess we could demolish it, but even that costs money. So, you want to make a motion, we can, I don't want to put cold water on your efforts. If you think that money can be raised, I'll be the first to say, wow, I was wrong. But I'm just not that encouraged by the economy and where we live.
I don't know if I have a recommendation. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. I'm almost wondering if we don't have to revote or any of that yet, and host a meeting first that's very much trying to figure out, can we even get to 551, and what would that do? And have that be, like, the district, we can host that and open that, and we're not going to invite people that aren't Shrek. Right, we'll invite the community, but Shrek would definitely be represented on there. And and we don't need to move towards a formal agreement for that conversation. And I think what comes out of that, and at the same time, I think there's some fundraisers being planned that we can see what's the result in, I think we said basically four fundraisers over the next couple months. And then, so I think that would put us like in a spot to ask USDA, would this scope work? We've collectively come up with this, would this even be allowable? And get that answer, and then in October see, hey, what was the result of these 4 fundraisers? And where do we think we're at here? And say, is that 551 even possible? Like, I think for me, that's kind of the, if we can't get to 551, we can't get to 1.2 million. And so I'm wondering if, and then if we realize, oh wow, we got to 800,000 just in this conversation, you know, in these couple months, and 1.2 looks feasible. If we change the scope smaller and get approval, they're not going to tell us we can't go back to the bigger one. I can't imagine they're going to be like, no, you changed your mind. And so, like, I think by October or November we could have, like, is this even possible? And if the answer is no, like, I think at that point we'll be working together to say, hey, like, we're trying our butts off and even that doesn't work. Like, let's have an honest conversation about where we go from here. And then see how much of that USDA grant we can even spend, right? Can we even get 55,000 out of it? I don't know. Based on that, and I think that keeps us from having to make a formal action step, those types of things. I think it does ask for some trust in us to say, like, hey, let's continue this conversation without formal agreements in place, and a chance to build relationship beyond a vote kind of thing. So.
Carolee, did you have a recommendation, or what, after all this discussion,
I
what would
can
you like to see?
guarantee you that there will be almost no more money raised by October. We're talking about local fundraisers, which will raise pennies sometime October. I'm just gonna talk like me, not like the person who's representing the SRAC. I mean, I've devoted 15 years of my life to doing this. I also, as some of you know, have a background in running a very large university research center entirely through grants, where I had 55 people working there and a lot of federal and state money. I know how to write grants. We are failing to bring in money. I don't think that SRAC is going to be able, I think what we're saying now, I'm still talking like me, I think we're coming to say, we have put 15 years of our best effort into this. We listen to the community. We ourselves would love to have a pool, but unless we manage to do this as a really joint effort between the school district and the community people who want to do this, it's not going to happen. We are not, and unless a lot of people who are, our board has gotten really small, we don't have a lot of people volunteering. I'm aging out fast. You know, I'm just saying that in order to make this happen, there really has to be a really big groundswell. I'm saying, as much as I would like to have it happen, as much as I like to try and figure out how we can possibly do this, we are not going to have very much more money coming in the near future. And unless we can tap into funds through departments of education that we can't tap into as a private nonprofit, we're not going to be able to raise the money to do this. I can say that I think we've done a really, I'll echo Carol, we have spent a lot of energy and a lot of money, and we have not touched the state $500,000. With the money that has been spent to figure out, is there dirt under the pool or is there nothing? The money that's been spent to figure out how much would it cost to bring the toilets up to FDA compliance has all been individual contributions. I mean, so that is quite remarkable for a very low-income community to have pulled that off and to have kept the big money outstanding. You know, so that's what I have to say.
So, yeah, I just want to respond to that. Mayor?
Yeah.
You have something you want to?
Well, it's kind of, I think we might be gonna say the same thing, because, so what I hear you saying is you need the school district to get kind of, I get the partnership and all that, but it feels to me, and I wasn't here, but then that takes us back to the point where Michelle and the former board kind of had to step away, because it was the school district doesn't, I mean, yeah, we could, the school could decide to go 100% in on writing grants for pool and writing and all that kind of stuff. But what about, the grant we just wrote for the preschool, and what about the grant we wrote for the art center? And
Yeah.
so then that stuff doesn't happen. And I feel like that brings us back to that point, and I'm not trying to, I wasn't there, Michelle was, where can the school take on trying to get this pool, trying to raise $6 million?
So what I wanted to, that's true. But from the historical, how we inherited this pool or were gifted this pool, we gave it our best shot, and we sunk a whole heap of money every year to try to subsidize it, because pools don't make money. So, it's not from not trying to make it work. We tried every aspect. We didn't want to pull the plug on that pool. None of us did. But it was really just dollars and cents and stewarding an entire school district that made us do what we had to do. If I could get that pool back, and it could sustain itself, I'd be the first one to be a cheerleader, because I benefited from it myself. And this whole, as a board member, stewarding kids and making sure they learned how to swim was very worthwhile pursuit, no question. We know we saved lives, but that doesn't support a pool, and I don't see the one thing I mentioned it before. There wasn't a pool in Florence. We had a lot of people coming from Florence, so I think we have. It's a different climate. I don't see this district with our funds and our declining enrollment supporting a swimming pool.
I'm not asking the district for funds to support the pool. I'm absolutely confident that we can sustain the pool. Plus, we did it for a while. The problem was the building did not allow it to be sustained, not the people who came to it, and we were managing to do that, and the grant work that we've been doing and thinking about, I can't tell you how many times we've gone to ask, can we have some money to make the building better? Well, we can't give you that, but we're really going to be happy to give you money as soon as that pool's built. So I actually want to take the sustaining the pool, operating the pool, that SRAC is completely willing to do. That's what we agreed to do in the first place. We didn't know that we were inheriting a building and a pool that was broken. And I wasn't here for that particular slice of things, but I joined the board once it was there. So I think taking sustainability, taking operation off the table is really important, because right now there's a broken building.
Okay, I think we should
Just
go with.
one clarification I want to make is, there's not a lot of capital grants available for schools either. So the things that I work with, like in my ESD side, I work with 16 districts across the county, and everybody's trying to figure out how to do capital projects. And you can get creative, but it's always at the expense of something else you could be doing for students. And that's where the prioritization matters. So it's not like us stepping up and saying, okay, we'll put in for more grants is going to lead to this whole field of money, and especially grants for schools for pools, there's even less. So I just want to make clear, like, us stepping up puts us pretty close to in the same boat, because a lot of those funds, we get the same answer. Oh yeah, that's a great idea, as soon as you have a building.
Again, talking as me, not necessarily see. I mean, I'm not at all, I mean, I don't know how it would be possible. I mean, we've always thought Parks and Rec, blah, blah, blah. You know, but were they gonna build us a building? I don't know. So, this is a decision point, I think, about what to do. But we do still have that $500,000 sitting there that I feel quite responsible to do something with about teaching children to swim. That's what the money came for. It's not a small amount.
Just in terms of priorities, I will say that the pool building is not and will not be a top priority for me for probably 2 years, and I don't wanna sit here and like make that not obvious. That said, that USDA grant money, the same responsibility, you're sitting on 500,000, wanna use it, we're sitting on 303,000. I feel responsible for making that go as far as possible, and so I wanna level set what we're talking about when we say partnership. My priority would be trying to get as much of that 303,000 to go to something towards improving that building. And I would hope that you all would feel the same about the 500,000 and that some arrangement could be made through there. But I don't wanna overpromise that then the school district's prioritizing the pool above other things in the next couple of years. So I just wanna make sure that's clear.
So what if we do this? What if we have we find a subcommittee, so if you, Sue, and maybe a board member or two, Shrek, if you have people who would like to join that as well, and just talk about what are we gonna do about the USDA funds? What, and come up with 3 possibilities or something, to bring back to the board. Because that is what we have to decide now, because if we don't do something, it will all go away. Does that seem like at least one step forward, maybe? Is there board members who would be willing to serve on that subcommittee? Music? Okay.
And just a note. So is the 500,000 to be used for the pool building or providing some way to teach kids to swim?
$500,000 was given to the Mapleton pool. We clarified, could we use some of that money to fix the building, and they said yes.
But it's for that facility,
But it is,
A vision of
like
a
as a pool.
pool in that building.
Yeah.
yes, it's connected to a physical site.
That's this money.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm talking about this money.
Right.
Yeah.
This money is the community part of it. That's what I think we need to make a decision on.
But if we're moving towards a pool, then we combine them.
Not
Yes.
Right. Right, if the committee comes back and says,
And just in that sense, I wasn't at the community meeting. How many people are at the community meeting?
25 to 30.
30,
Yeah, 30.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it was definitely well attended.
There was a sign-in sheet that, did you count? I don't know, but like
Yeah, there
30-ish.
was a sign-in sheet, and there were 20 people who gave us our email and wanted to learn more what's going on.
I will say, I don't remember who told me this at the end, but said it was the best attended community meeting in however long, right, kind of thing. So it was definitely, the community showed up.
Yeah, right, that's true.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Yep.
So can I count on between Mizu, Carolee, and Sue, that you guys,
And Mary said.
and Mary, I'm sorry, find a time to get together and talk about specifically the USDA part of that? And, I mean, I think everything's on the table, I would say. The warming center, back when I first started, there was an idea of taking the building down and having an outdoor pool. So if the building's the problem, there's that option too.
It was almost just as expensive.
It was still gonna be a couple $1 million, yeah, for sure, but, so,
No easy win.
quick? Sure, go ahead. Please state your name. Yeah,
I just want to say, I keep hearing about warming center.
Can you state your name?
Warming center, and it's.
What's your name?
Oh, sorry. My name's Ely Hadley.
okay, thank you.
I live over on East Mapleton. No, I just want to say, besides a warming center, you know, there's ways to separate the school from the building. There's all the community things that you can do, like classrooms for yoga and.
100%,
there's a lot-
yeah.
The small committee can focus, you know, we don't want a warming center, there's too much concern. There are other things that will meet, you know, fun.
Yeah, that would bring the community together, yeah. Agreed, yeah, that's a good point. Okay. All right, subcommittee, you have your marching orders, and we look forward to hearing some good stuff. Are we good moving on, do you think? Okay. I think we're on elementary report then, 5.2.
That was included in there.
Okay, you got that, okay.
Yeah, I spoke for Brenda there, so.
Okay. Finances, anything in the board report that you want to point out, Jaren?
We made lots of money, we spent lots of money.
It's a good summary, all right.
The 10 passenger bus is on the expenses, and it's here now. So we have another transportation vehicle. You just can't see it because it's hidden in the shop. So.
Okay.
But that is the main big expense aside from insurance. So.
Okay. Any questions for Jaren with the consent agenda coming up too on any of his documents? Okay. Then let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, raise your hand. It's passed unanimously. Action item 8, or moving on to action items. 8.1, we need to elect a board chair and a vice chair for next year. I have very much enjoyed being the chair the last year and a half. It's made me a better board member, I think, and so I highly encourage anybody who hasn't tried it. I know Mizu was the chair for at least 2.5 years before I got on the board. But it's been a great experience, and but I encourage others who might want to give it a shot. Discussion?
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You did.
Excellent. You actually helped right the boat during some pretty rough waters through COVID. So, I mean, maximum respect.
Thank you.
Yes, agreed. Does anybody want to do it? Does anybody, yeah.
I think I'm too new. I think that wouldn't be a very responsible thing to do, so I don't want to be considered for either. Thank you very much.
Okay. Michelle, Mizu, Andrea? I don't see anybody stepping by. I see lots of eyes looking down. I was feeling that.
I did it, and I feel good about having done it, and would do it again eventually if I'm on the board still when it comes up again. But I think it'd be good to rotate it again.
So ordinarily, the vice chair steps into the chair's position. That's.
Okay.
That is, yeah.
That's
a lot
how-
of times, yeah.
I mean, it's the
So-
only way we've done it. I don't think we've ever done it any other way. In
I
all
wasn't,
the
okay,
years.
I wasn't the vice chair, that's why I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
There we
so
go.
there.
But a lot of times it's that way because you have
Somebody
you have
left
somebody
the
be
board.
vice chair who hasn't been chair before, so they kind of learn a little bit while the other person is chair, and then so that is kind of has been a common way of
Okay.
succession. But yeah, and so
So is that of interest to you, Michelle? Are you willing
Yeah,
to do that?
I assumed it would happen because this has happened to me before. I mean,
Okay.
35 years that I've been on this board, I've been vice chair, moved into the chair, so I just assumed it would happen.
Okay. Okay.
ready to make that nomination.
Yeah.
No, unless not hearing anybody else who's jumping at the chance.
Well, I would then nominate Andrea to be vice chair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I hear a motion to elect Michelle as next year's chair and Andrea as next year's vice chair.
So moved.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you both. And I'm happy to help out. Like I said, it does really make you a better
You
board
can pass
member,
on your
so.
OSBA contacts.
Yeah.
No, okay, I see what you did there, I don't like it.
Okay, moving on to 8.2 personnel.
So actually,
Do you take over right
I'm
now?
not the chair anymore.
I was gonna keep going, but I love it. Go for it.
Okay, 8.2 personnel, we have 8.21 resignation of our PE teacher. This is an action item. I hear a motion.
Yeah, well, first I just want to say I'm so grateful to him for having come in and done a year here during a really hard time, and it helped the staffing, like it took the weight off all the other staff also, and it was just, so appreciation to Mr. Delay, so, but
I agree.
yeah. Yes,
Okay.
definitely a motion though to accept the resignation.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Can I jump in real quick on the, this, we can hold people for 60 days. I'm not recommending we do that. I just want to make clear in the vote, let's not do that.
So, right.
Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, good. So do we need to say in the motion then, or to accept his resignation without holding him to the 60-day contract? Yeah, sure. Okay.
All those in favor? Thank you, that was unanimous. And to hire Joy Orenick as our middle school and high school co-principal. We're gonna do this together, this is one hiring.
I think we can. Yeah.
Well, the fall coaches though, what?
Let's leave those separate, and then, so Joy as the middle school, high school co-principal, and then Vanessa Clemens has agreed to come and teach physical education and health for us, so.
Not sad. That's awesome.
What?
That's awesome.
I just saw that when I came in. It wasn't on the original.
That's
agenda.
so cool. It wasn't final yet.
I didn't either until I walked in the door here, and I was like,
Brenda Moyer gets credit for a good recruitment effort.
Awesome.
Well,
Yay Brenda, yay Vanessa.
yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about Joy?
Yeah, Joy comes to us from, most recently she was director of curriculum and instruction in Junction City. That was during COVID times, and they figured out their fifth graders wouldn't fit in the building when we had to have certain requirements, so she became kind of an emergency principal for the fifth grade group in Junction City, and got, none of them were, especially staff, were very happy to be there, and led community building and all the things, and had a very successful year there. She's worked prior, the principal of Fur Ridge, which is an alternative school in David Douglas, heavy emphasis on youth voice, and background in teaching in English language arts, and I believe theater, if not theater teaching directly, connection to theater and extracurricular.
I like that.
Well, I'm excited to be, I would, again, move that we hire Joy Orenick as middle school, high school co-principal, and Vanessa Clemens as the physical education teacher.
Second. I guess what I should have said about coaches, Vanessa has agreed to do middle school football, and we have more names that we're tracking down for middle school volleyball. She didn't have a background playing or coaching football or volleyball, and was like, well, give me one of them. So she's going to do middle school football and jump on in there. So,
Fantastic.
and then we're still looking for middle school volleyball. Please spread the word.
All right, all those in favor?
Wait, we didn't get, do we second? Did we get a
Yeah,
second?
you got 2
okay,
seconds,
couple
yep,
of them. Okay,
yep.
cool.
Yep, unanimous. Or did you vote,
Yep.
Andrea? Okay. Unanimous, all right. 8.3, we have our New Year action items. Name the confidential employees excluded from the bargaining units: Randy Duvall, Jamie Foster, Jaron Rick, Susan Wilson, Brendan Moyer, and Carly Duvall.
Can we have done in the past this all grouped together? 8.3.
Like all of 8.3.
Yeah, 8.3, 1 through 17.
Yeah, we just talked about that, and you said there was, you
You
thought
I
that,
said Jaren will interrupt us if we can't.
Can we
Is
do
not
that?
allowable.
Just like
Read 'em all.
consent agenda.
I mean, we used to
Yeah, I
do
like
it,
the
but
consent agenda.
there was a question about the propriety.
Whether that's okay or not.
Well,
Okay.
that was Sue's question, so
Oh, yeah.
you were gonna look into it.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, cool. Well, let's just go with,
And we probably need to add Joy onto that for confidential.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
good point.
yeah.
Okay, so 8.3, do I hear a motion to designate all of the designees here and authorize all the authorizations that we're supposed to do here? Everybody can see this.
I move to accept 8.3.1 through 8.3.17 for the coming school year.
Cool. I second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? All right, unanimous again, thank you. Discussion items, Mapleton Pool Building, I think
Oh, we've got 8.4.
Yeah,
There's a couple
Oh,
more.
you're right. Revision to the district calendar, what are we doing?
What was that?
So, it's, oh, it's in very, oh, yeah, it's down there. It's at the very back of your packet.
Yeah.
So the original calendar that you guys approved actually had 171 days on it. Teacher's contract is 166.
Oh.
So,
They didn't want to work the other 5.
no,
We didn't even ask. Jaren got it.
yeah, when I was putting stuff in the payroll, I was like, oh, wait a second. Considering our CBAs say it max 169, so yes, this is just, we're shortening,
All right,
taking it up a week. So,
well, thanks for that, Jaren.
So I move that we accept the revisions to the district calendar as presented.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Unanimous again.
Just to note, if anybody's listening online or here, we've got a lot of requests for that calendar, and the reason we've held off is for this approval, so we'll get that posted online.
Awesome.
ASAP.
I think, I think it is online, just listed as proposed.
Okay, so we have the 8.5 board policy deletions. Is this the second reading, or
This is, this is just.
these are the recommendations?
Deletions twice. Just roll. So, I told Mary Ellen that I just explained. So JFCFA, in that last round that we did, got sucked into another policy, basically. So that's why it's getting deleted, because it's duplicate, kind of. And EEAB and EEABAR became EEA, and we had our own EEAAR. And so we're getting rid of that because these other ones got sucked. It's just based about
Less
transportation.
acronyms. Thanks.
Yeah. And so they got sucked into this other one in the last round also. And so we need to delete we need to rescind all of the old policies that are no longer
All right,
part of it. So,
I would move that we delete board policies JFCFA, EEAAR, EEAB, EEABAR.
Second.
moved and seconded, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And this is the surplus property that you added, Jaren. You want to speak to that?
yes, so vans, I don't remember, I think it's a Dodge, I don't know what van that is. Old van, old minibus, and the small Kubota riding mower as opposed to the large one. We've got the new big bus, we have a newer minibus, and we have the new 10-passenger van, so Randy's just looking to get rid of this old stuff, so
Great. So,
we'll
great.
throw it up on public surplus for auction and stuff once, so that's how we'll get rid of it, we'll auction it off through them.
Is there a motion?
I move to let Randy do that.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? All right, moving out. I think we can move past the Mapleton Pool Building discussion item, because
Covered it earlier.
yeah. Community engagement with the board. Sue, I think this was maybe something.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of seed an idea, and I've talked to individual members, but I wanted to share it with the public as well. I think tonight having folks engage in the board meeting and being here is like really important, and sometimes the rules of a board prevent that authenticity and back and forth, and sometimes we just do it anyway, which I'm happy. But thinking about ideas for engaging the community around topics that are important and impact our students and our community in kind of town hall structures or kind of more dialogue based, and either prior to a board meeting or maybe on a different week than a board meeting, so that those conversations can happen and then come in and inform the agenda and the decisions. And people who do show up and engage don't feel like they don't really have a voice or aren't responded to, because some of the formal rules can make that where there's not a nice back and forth. I have asked questions. I know there's things about like, can you have 5 board members in the same place doing those things? I'm under the impression that these are allowable structures, and we just need to fine tune and share with the community what those look like. And 5 people at different tables not
Right.
talking to each other isn't board business, and it would still be a public meeting because we'd invite people to it. So I wanted to seed that as an idea for potential path forward with just increasing engagement both with the board and our administration and with the community.
I love it. I'd like to do something like that, because I feel like, you know, I don't know, the times where we're available, or I think people sometimes just don't want to intrude or bother us, so they don't talk about things that are important to them, but that would be a designated time for that, and so it might remove that barrier. So I would like to have something like that happen.
Well, and did you find out, like, what we did tonight, that's fine as long as we're fine allowing it, right? Or,
I mean, it's your board, you can do what you want. I think my guess is if somebody was here, they'd tell you like, oh, you broke all the rules of a board meeting, and
Absolutely.
it's your board meeting, break all the rules you want.
The board meeting is actually the business of the board.
Right.
And so this would have a different energy to it. I mean,
Sure.
we have business to deal with, and we like to get out of here.
Yeah,
So we don't get to have that kind of rapport.
and I think also like, this was what, probably 12 people, sorry if I didn't count you. If we're truly doing engagement, having what we did tonight be authentic with a larger audience, I think we can quickly spiral into a
Yeah.
long meeting or not having shared voice
Yeah.
or those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so this is a chance to really root it in dialogue. The other thing I'll share is the state funding this year is the Integrated Guidance, Student Success Act, CTE, High School Success, there's 6 of them kind of coming together and rooted in community engagement. So I think this would be a chance to really root those discussions in the vision and wants and needs of the community, and then have that inform that
I love that.
process as well.
Yeah.
I love that, especially just to reiterate that feeling that it's allowed to talk, because there was, that part was really nerve-wracking for me. Like Mizu and I going to the community member meeting, that pool meeting, we're like, can we be here? We can. There's only 2 of us. But there was more, you know, and that kind of, if we could designate a space for like true community engagement like this, where it's allowed, it's safe, and it's appropriate, I would just, that's what I signed up for, right? You know, so that's what I would like to see.
Well, it takes the pressure off the board chair too, trying to decide when someone wants
Yeah.
to speak, whether, you know,
Right,
That's great.
because we want to hear them, but I don't want to, I want to follow the rules too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still think we'd have to do it in a way where it's like, well, I don't know, there'd be some, we couldn't discuss.
we can't say
Stuff,
certain,
we couldn't discuss.
It's
what's
more
gonna make
listening.
any board
It's-
decisions, it's listening.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really for
Yeah.
the board specifically, it would be in a listening role. I'll say for admin too,
Yeah.
but that listening role doesn't mean you can't have dialogue at
Right,
that
sure.
table to seek
Yeah.
further
Mhm.
information and be in part, you know,
Yeah.
be in community.
We just can't make decisions.
But you can't lean over to the board member next to you and be like, hey, let's do this because they said this. That's gonna have to happen in the discussion
Yeah.
section of the agenda.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so set it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Look,
I think the
We
step
can look
would
at the
be,
calendar.
we'll work together,
Yep.
and, kind of try our first trial, pick a spot and pick some items to discuss and get it on the agenda, so, cool?
Yeah, we do like we did with Salton, so yeah, go up to Deadwood, whatever,
Yeah.
stuff, so that, you know,
Yeah.
at a couple different places.
Places, so that
Yeah.
accessibility wise.
And yeah, I
That's
think we
great,
just
yeah.
have to
Like
post
some
it
church
as
or something.
Yeah.
a public meeting where the board will be in attendance, but no decisions will be made and stuff. I mean, you guys can talk together, but you just can't take any action
Right.
and stuff, so.
That's great.
Cool, fantastic, thanks.
Thank you.
9.1.3, state testing. There is plenty to talk about there, but I'm going to put this off till next month because it's almost 8 o'clock. But you all know that the OSBA did approve our workshop. The folks of it, there's 4 of us who will be presenting at the November conference on alternatives to state testing, the history of state testing. It'll be really a wonderful event, and I do believe that it's in person. I don't think it's Zoom, so, but it'll be recorded, and I'll keep you posted.
Awesome.
It was a real surprise. It had not for a minute did we think that they would give us a slot, but you know, times are changing.
That's good.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
great.
Equity Committee, 9.1.4.
I can update, we haven't met since, school has been out, and we will start at meetings, I'm assuming in September. I don't know if it'll be before our next board meeting, so our next equity update will either be in the September board, meeting, or it might not be until October.
All right. Good luck with it. Fantastic. Thanks for serving that way, Mary. Board goals for the school year.
We need to update them.
Yeah, we kind of do. How do we want to go about doing that? Are we going to have a workshop, just a board workshop for that specific purpose? I can't remember how we did it last time.
Like last time, Mizu and I kind of devised a rough draft, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yep, we looked at
We
other,
adapted from that.
but it
So
was
you're
so
gonna bring-
code focused.
But that,
It was
yeah,
like
and that was
really-
all during Zoom time and everything
Mhm.
else, yeah.
I think last year we just, we kind of all reviewed them on our own, and I know we added a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had,
Yeah.
but it would be nice to have more conversation about them again, because I feel like we're ready to, these are ones that were like important at the time, and some of the themes still are, but they were very focused on that those COVID years.
Well, I think I could contribute in a more meaningful way too if it was in a group, because if I was just told to review and bring my thoughts. I'm very new to this, so I wouldn't feel very as confident, or I don't think I could contribute in quite as meaningful of ways. So I would like to maybe do that as a
Yeah, can we just do a workshop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would, if we're gonna do that, I would throw out, one thing I learned in the board cafe this last week was, it talked a lot about your norms, so not goals, but what's your norms, and I think with a new superintendent, maybe if we could talk about that a little bit too, like how do we wanna communicate with Sue this year, or and stuff like that, so, and what's, I don't know, there's a whole list, I'll get it from the person who brought it up, and we could maybe talk about some of those things too, just to make everyone get on the same page, make sure we're all on the same page, I should say. So yeah, I'd be down with
Fantastic.
that.
Do we want to do it before a board meeting? Do we want a separate day? What works for people?
I mean, either way is fine for me. It would be nice to do it before the next board meeting, so whether it was that day or if we.
I mean, I like it if it's just one drive down here. So if we could do it, if we started at
Start at
5 instead of, I think an hour would give us a chance to at least
I'm gonna
dig in.
look at mine and Mizu's
Yeah.
schedule for a real hot second. I
Yeah.
have it in here, so.
Totally.
With sports coming,
Yeah, I got it.
I'll make sure there's no game.
Our kids are
What is that,
so
September what?
irritating.
They are.
They just take so much from us.
FYI, Mizu, I think ours went to the store. I was supposed to pass out.
Okay. Thank you.
I can't wait till mine can drive. One more year.
Well, they're not driving, they're walking.
They're walking.
They're still able to, they're both able to drive, just not with a license.
Not with each other yet.
I see, that, yes.
We don't have a game,
Yeah, it's the
so
21st.
That's the, what was it, the 21st?
Yeah. That?
And I also don't have a game.
Yeah, that's amazing.
so
That's
come in
So can
early.
we say 5 o'clock on the 21st? Cool.
Okay.
Board goals.
And can we like, I mean, it sounds like we might have a good, like, kind of agenda or, discussion, like, some guidance in that, because an hour's actually gonna go by really fast when we're talking
Yeah.
about
Yes, that's it.
goals.
Yeah, well, it's also, it could be like the first of 2 meetings or the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
of 3.
Oh,
Mhm.
right.
So, I mean, unless we want to dedicate like another night, which I'd be willing to, but I just think this gets us started and,
Yeah, great.
Sounds fine.
okay, great.
Awesome.
And you can give us some guidance, Mary Ellen, since you've
Yeah,
got
I'll
some
find out
ideas.
this,
They'll
yeah.
forward that on to
Get
us, so
that
we all kind
document,
of think about
exactly,
it.
yeah, things that
Great.
they talked about, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, let's see, we have our public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there more public comment? Hearing none. We're going to move on to, let's see, comments from the board. Any further discussion from this board?
Oh, I'm excited for the start of the school year.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle
might
and
be nice
Andrea,
to have,
for
like,
stepping out.
Kids in the building, right?
They're slowly showing up. It's starting to feel more like school, so.
Cool, yeah.
Okay, well, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
And seconded. All those in favor, thank you very much.
I heard you have to hit the gavel to adjourn.
You have to.
Ah, with the thing.
Does that make you feel good?
For that.
Are you a rebel?